In this video, we will be demonstrating Informer 5, the next generation of our powerful Agile reporting and analytics tool. Version 5 incorporates powerful new features such as data governance, data discovery, and collaboration within a clean and intuitive user interface. Now let's look at a real-world example of how you might use Informer 5 at your institution. In this example, we're going to be looking at admissions data to track how well we're doing in receiving new applicants into our university. So I've created a data set that lists all of the applications that we've received. And these are applications we've received over a long period of time. And I've listed useful information about those applicants and their applications to be able to analyze them. And I can modify that data set using the query designer that I used to create it initially. And I can add additional fields if I like. Or I can add criteria if I want to further narrow the data set down. And then here are my flow steps. So we have several on here. I have one that converts a zip code to a geographical location, which we can see over here. I have a Power script that fills out some missing data because my data was incomplete, and therefore I use the flow steps to fill in those missing gaps. And then I have another simple one that calculates the age of the applicant based on the application date and their birth date, giving their age. So once I've created that data set, then I want to give ownership of that data set to the admissions team so that they're able to create their own content and do what they need with this data set. I can also share it out to other users and teams to allow them to work with it, but in this case I want the admissions team to own this data since it's their data anyway. So I'm going to log in as someone who is in the admissions group. And I can go to my data sets. And here I have my applications data set. So now I can start working with it and analyzing that data. So if I'm the admissions director, for example, I might want to come in here and create a little simple pivot table that I can analyze the data based on maybe gender. So it gives me a count of each gender. And then in my columns, I may want to look at load intent. So I can see whether I'm getting full-time, part-time, half-time, or other, how many students I have, or applicants that I have there. I can also use this pivot table, or excuse me, the Discover tool, and start creating some useful content here as well. So I can just start selecting columns from my data, and Informer will suggest some visuals that may be helpful for me to get started in visualizing my data. I can interact with these visuals just by clicking on the pie chart, for example, and drilling into the data underneath it. I can also change the chart type if I want to make it a bar chart or some other type of chart. And then I can save that to my data set that allows me to reuse it later for other reports and other dashboards, for example. And then here we have a pivot table as well, so I might save that one. So when you select data from this field chooser, it is sensitive to the data in it. So for example, Informer will recognize that a field named state is probably something having to do with a geographical location like state. So it creates a map, a heat map of the United States. And then again, I can save that to my visuals. We also have that location field that I mentioned in the when we were looking at the flow steps. If I choose that field, Then I get a heat map of the United States showing all of the applicants I've received based on their zip code. And we can go in and configure that. And we're going to change that a bit to instead be maybe I want to look at a particular state, for example. I want to maybe I'm really been working hard on the state of North Carolina, and I'm wanting to see how well I'm doing as far as attracting students from that state. So I can come in here and choose North Carolina, and then I want to filter my data set out by state, and then we'll choose North Carolina, and then the chart will redraw based on the state of North Carolina, and then I can save that to my visuals. So I can continue creating visuals this way. I can also come here under the visuals section and be able to select or see rather the visuals that I've already created. And I can add additional visuals just by clicking the little add visual button and selecting from the particular type of visual that I want and saving that. So that creates my big KPI counter. And I can delete any of these charts that I may not want, so I may not want that one after all, so I can just select it and say delete. If you would like to schedule a one-on-one demonstration of the product, please contact our sales department at informersales@intrinsic.com. Thank you, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.